Alright, good morning everyone. We are here, break 445. It is a 26 League Heroes combo break, which features the 26 League Heroes sealed case, 2 26 League Hero hobby boxes, and 5 26 League Heroes starter packs. Our team list for this one: Broncos. No, I thought I had updated that. My apologies, guys. Before I read that out, let's update it. I was in the process of getting set up and I got distracted. Alright, there we go. So that is our team list for today. Broncos, Raele, Hastings. Raiders, Jacob, Whittley. Bulldogs, Cole Hunt. Sharks, Johnathon, Bowden. Dolphins, Andy Garratt. Titans, Daryl, Barton. Manly, Johnny D. Storm, Andy Garratt. Knights, Scott Longworth. Cowboys, Nathan Seymour. Eels, Darren, Link. Panthers, Lachlan, Allen. Rabbitohs, Brendan Grouse. Dragons, Johnny D. Roosters, Dean Mich. And Warriors, Daniel Sorich. Tigers, Ross Nataras. Alright, here we are. We have our starter packs and hobby boxes with the case over onto the side. Sorry, Nathan, my apologies, mate. Hopefully I haven't confused too many people. I know Dad got a few messages and phone calls last time, but we have fixed it up pretty quickly, so. Alright, let's get these starter packs open and find our bonus packs to get started. Same to you, Jonathan. Alright, that's number 4. One more to go. Them now. First up, Mawaki Photo Ika for the Titans. There we go. Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. For the Dolphins, Hammer. And Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins as well. I think that's the first time one team has taken 2. Game Breakers, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Luminous RTS for the Warriors. Mercury, Lindsay Smith for Panthers, number 286. Luminous, Tiana Penatani, a grey for the Sharks. League heads, Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Bang Joash for the Eels. Luminous Herbie Farnworth for the Dolphins. Red Triumph, Ruben Garratt for Manly. Luminous Dream Buller for Tigers. League heads, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Ethan Bullimore for Manly. Bang Isaac Tago for Panthers. Luminous Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers, Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Luminous Dylan Brown for the Knights. League heads, Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Luminous Lyshan Albert Jones for the Warriors. If you didn't see this morning, guys, hobby combos are back in stock. Game Breakers, Sanua Taruva for Tigers. Luminous Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Colour die cuts, Connolly Lumi Lou for the Dolphins. Luminous Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Colour die cuts, Taylor May for the Tigers. Luminous Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Colour die cuts, Lycan King Togia for Dragons. Luminous Bo Fermor for Titans. 2 packets left out of our starter packs. League heads, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous Jason Tormalolo for Cowboys. Here's a tip. Now I'm having a mind blank. I just had it. I'll get back to you. League heads, Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Luminous KO Weeks for the Raiders. Alright, let's get these retail boxes open. Darren Lockyer, that's the one I was thinking of. Any Darren Lockyer fans and collectors out there? We have an older card that wasn't listed on the website that has come through our hands. So I think it's 2012, maybe 2013. So I'd be saving that Lockyer search in your search bar. Here we go. Box number 1. Let's get into it. I know there's been Immortal cards updated. There's been a few things that I wasn't aware was coming, so I hope everyone's got their wish list up to date, not just the recent stuff. Alright, let's go. Box number 1, first packet. Game Breakers, Tanila Paseka for Manly. Luminous Josh Kerr for the Dragons. We only got 2 teams still available in 446, and that's Titans and Dragons. With no breaks booked in tomorrow, we can very well do that one if it's sold out. Sebastian Kriegs, league heads for Raiders. Ruben Garratt, Luminous for Manly. Game Breakers, Liam Martin for Panthers. Luminous Mich Kenny for Panthers. Bang Jerome Luai for Tigers. Luminous Anfanua Blake for the Sharks. League heads Ruben Cotter for Cowboys. Luminous Bailey Haywood for Bulldogs. Colour die cut Lekahela Seymour for Warriors. Luminous Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. Game Breakers Anfanua Blake for the Sharks. Luminous Jalen de Groot for Titans. Bang Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. League heads Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous Cassie Hiku for the Eels. Colour die cuts Tolator Koala for Manly. Luminous Marky Mark for Roosters. Game Breakers Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Luminous Tom Gilbert for Dolphins. Mercury Reed Marnie for the Cowboys, number 72. Luminous Wade Egan for the Warriors. League heads, Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Latu Finu for Tigers. Come on, Storm, where you hiding? Game breakers, Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Luminous Ezra Mam for Broncos. Bang Brian To'o for Panthers. I can't win a game, I'll get a card. Tom Dearden, Luminous for Cowboys. League heads, Jermaine Hopwood for the Eels. Luminous Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Colour die cut, Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Luminous Keanu Kinney for Titans. Game breakers, Bo Fermor for Titans. Luminous Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Bang Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Angelina for the Bulldogs. I'm not going to lie, definitely feel like there's something going on towards Storm here. I think that's the second Munster I've pulled as the back base card. League heads, Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous Zach Lomax for the Eels. Red Triumph, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Watch. If we don't hit something soon, I'm going to tip we're going to hit the Storm Golden Treasure. Jason Tormalolo, die cut for Cowboys. Luminous Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers, Morgan Smithies for Raiders. Luminous Billy Walters for Broncos. We have a Dally M predictor. We have a league head, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Luminous Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. I would like to sort of say that that was a Storm card, just to make it fit, but you know, I can't even do that. Bang, Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Luminous Greg Marshew with the Knights. It doesn't surprise me when we get through a hobby box and a team hasn't hit a card with only 18 packs. I can sort of cop that, but we're pretty much through a full retail box and the starter packs. Gladiators, Max King for the Bulldogs, number 67. Luminous Cooley Kefu for the Dolphins. Hey, here we go, finally. League heads, Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. Luminous, Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. I was getting worried there for a moment. Feeling like the machine was hating on Storm when we packed this box. Game breakers, Joash for the Eels. Luminous, Appy Nichols for the Warriors. Bang, Chance, Nico Clockstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. League heads, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Good open. Red Triumph is for the Eels. Luminous, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. League heads, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Luminous, Trent LaRoe for Storm. Oh, we've got 2 in the tray now. We're off. We just got to improve. Game breakers, Teddy for the Roosters. We go through that at the end. You'll see me, I'll call out what they are. As in, I'll tell you it's an instant win or a goal triumph or whatever it is. But at the end, we'll go through them together. Jamal Fogarty for Manly. I was just really surprised that we hadn't hit a Storm card yet. League heads, Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Especially when you look at some of the other teams already. AJ Brimson for Titans. Die cuts, Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Luminous, Marata McCaw for the Warriors. Alright, last pack for box number 1. League heads, Damien Cook for the Dragons. Luminous, Moses Leota for Panthers to finish off the box. Alright, quickly get rid of the pile. And we'll get stuck into the next one. Box number 2. Die cut, Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Luminous, Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. League heads, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Game breakers, Kurt Catewell for the Warriors. Luminous, Lehe Hopawate for Manly. Oh, instant win. Luminous, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Bang! Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Luminous Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Game Breakers, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Luminous Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. League Heads, Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Luminous Nelson Sofa Solomona for Storm. Die Cuts, James Fisher Harris for the Warriors. Luminous Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. League Heads, Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. Luminous Valami Kickout for Bulldogs. Bang Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. League Heads, Marata Nakor for Warriors. Luminous Liam Martin for Panthers. Panthers, Moses Leota in the die cut. Luminous Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Game Breakers, Jesse Colhoun for the Sharks. Luminous Luca Moretti for the Eels. Triumph for the Raiders. Luminous James Fisher Harris for the Warriors. League Heads, Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Luminous Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. Bang Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous Val Holmes for the Dragons. League Heads, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Big Tino for the Titans. Game Breakers, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Hammer Fido for the Dolphins. League Heads, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Game Breakers, Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Luminous Dream Buller for Tigers. Bang Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Xavier Coates for Storm. League heads, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous, Herbie Farnworth for Dolphins. Gladiators, Tanila Paseka for Manly, number 500. Dylan Egan for the Dragons. Game breakers, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous, Abby Church for the Eels. League heads, Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Luminous, Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Game breakers, Payne Huss for Broncos. Luminous, Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Bang, Tommy Dearden for Cowboys. Luminous, Dylan Brown for the Knights. League heads, Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Luminous, Clinton Gutherson for Dragons. Die cut, Alehe Hopper-Whittley for Manly. Ben Hunt, Luminous for Broncos. Game breakers, Emily Bass for Tigers. Luminous, Isaiah Iongi for the Eels. Triumph, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous, Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Mercury, Terrell May for the Tigers, 121. Luminous, Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. League heads, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous, Jamie Chapman for Titans. Game breakers, Ruben Garratt for Manly. Luminous, Jerome Luai for Tigers. Bang, Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Luminous, Hudson Young for the Raiders. League heads, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Luminous, Aleka Halasima for the Warriors. And that's box number 2. box number 3 before we get started. It's probably already cold, but let's get it in. Alright. Bang Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Luminous Luciano Leilua for Dragons. League Head Anfanua Blake for Sharks. Luminous Katoni Staggs for Broncos. Game Breakers Loco Pacifici Tonga for Dragons. Luminous Asai Papalihi for Panthers. League Heads Tom Gilbert for Dolphins. Luminous Jacob Carraz for Bulldogs. I thought I had muted that. Let's do that now. Colour die cuts Jack Hetherington for the Knights. Luminous Alex Seafarth for the Tigers. Game Breakers Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous Keon Colin Matangi for the Rabbitohs. League Head Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous Ali Latua for the Warriors. Bang Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. Luminous Jordan Ricky for the Broncos. Game Breakers Cooley Kefu for the Dolphins. Luminous Jessica Surgis for the Roosters. Red Triumph Katoni Staggs for Broncos. Luminous Mitchell Moses for the Eels. League Head Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. Luminous Harry Grant for Storm. Game Breakers Mahalia Murphy for the Eels. Luminous Renato Molitalo for the Sharks. Die cuts Joash for the Eels. Luminous Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. League Heads Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Zach Labour for the Cowboys. Game Breakers Alafiana Khan Piera for Titans. Luminous Loco Pacifici Tonga for the Dragons. Bang Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Luke Brooks for Manly. League Heads Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. I thought that was a Roosters card then for some reason. Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins in the Luminous. Gold Triumph. And all I'm going to say is that one makes me feel good. Xavier Savage Luminous for the Raiders. League Heads Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Luminous Ben Trebojevic for Manly. Bang Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Luminous Sanoa Taruva for Tigers. Oh, I've got to quickly run off and grab a tissue after this box. I've got a couple while I'm there. Game Breakers Tiana Penatani Gray for Sharks. Luminous Will Penasini for Eels. League Heads Xavier Coates for Storm. Luminous Jonah Pezzett for the Storm. Die Cuts Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. League Heads Ethan Bullymore for Manly. Luminous Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Red Triumph West Tigers. Luminous Sarah Togatuki for Tigers. League Heads Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Connolly Loomy Lou for Dolphins. Game Breakers Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous Samuel Stonestreet for the Sharks. Bang Tolotokawala for Manly. Luminous Tanila Paseka for Manly. League Heads Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Sam Walker for the Roosters. Die Cut Max King for the Bulldogs. Luminous John Bateman for the Cowboys. League Heads Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous Jamin Salmon for the Bulldogs. Bang Hugo Savala for Roosters. Cameron Munster Luminous for Storm. Gladiators Cameron McInnes for the Sharks, number 237. Luminous Brian Kelly for the Titans. Game Breakers Tom Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Bailey Simonson for the Eels. 2 packets left for box number 3. Mercury Robert Toya for the Roosters, number 417. Jesse Southwell, Luminous for the Knights. Game Breakers Tyson Frizzell for Knights, and Luminous Georgia Hale for the Titans. Alright guys, I am sorry, but I need tissues. Alright, we're back. Sorry guys. If you've been following along the last couple of days, you will know I've been sick. And I was thinking I was getting better, but today I just feel like crap. And to kick my day off this morning, we had a new issue. Oh. Some of our numbered cards. So for 2026 heroes, league heroes, not all numbered cards, things like the luminous gold backs and the high numbered cards where there'd be just too many scans. We haven't scanned them individually, we've just listed the individual numbers. But if you go back to 25 Elite, with the Ruby Mojos and all that sort of stuff, they're all scanned individually, but they weren't showing the numbers when you selected one. Although the cards with like a redemption card and signatures and that, so you'd have multiple images for a variation, they were showing, so I was really confused. Luckily it wasn't anything major, it was just a pain to find and fix. Die cut Harry Grant for the Storm. Luminous Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. And the issue that was causing it, I don't even know why it all of a sudden started playing up, because nothing had been done with that. That's a plugin, if anyone knows what that is. But yeah, league heads Alex Twile for Tigers. Luminous Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Red Triumphs for Sharks. Luminous Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for Warriors. Game Breakers Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Luminous Tiana Penatani Gray for the Sharks. League Heads Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Luminous Terrell May for the Tigers. Bang Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels. Game Breakers Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous Stefano Utokumanu for Storm. Red Triumphs Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Luminous KO Weeks for Raiders. League Heads Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous Bo Fermor for Titans. Die cuts of Alami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Luminous Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. League Heads Hammer for the Dolphins. Luminous Alex Twile for Tigers. Game Breakers Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Tyron Wishart for Storm. Bang Lehehopawate for Manly. Luminous Kira Dib for the Cowboys. League Heads Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Luminous Braden Trindle for Sharks. William Kennedy for the Sharks. Game Breakers. Sam Verrills Luminous for Titans. Die cuts Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous Bradman Best for the Knights. League Heads Jack Williams for the Eels. Luminous Junior Paulo for the Eels. Game Breakers Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous Felice Kafusi for Dolphins. League heads Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous Lachlan Elias for Dragons. Game breakers Olivia Higgins for the Knights. Luminous Billy Smith for the Roosters. Bang Lakahela Seymour for the Warriors. Luminous Max King for the Bulldogs. League heads Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Luminous Lyshan Albert Jones for the Warriors. Die cuts Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Bang Hammer for the Dolphins. Luminous Tolator Koala for Manly. Game breakers Hervey Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Die cuts Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous Payne Haas for Broncos. Storm's definitely caught up now with the rest, which is good to see. League heads Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Just a very slow start for him. Game breakers Billy Smith for the Roosters. Luminous Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. League heads Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors. Luminous Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Bang KO Weeks for the Raiders. Luminous Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Game breakers James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Luminous Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. League heads Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Luminous Ethan Bullimore for Manly. Mercury Jerome Hughes for the number 1. There we go, 001. Doesn't that make up for the slow start now? Whoa. We had quite a few. Well, I felt like we had quite a few in the end. Number ones yesterday. Obviously, there's more numbered cards in the hobby, but yeah. Jesse Colhoun, Luminous for the Sharks. We've only got a few of the pictures done for yesterday's break so far. As I mentioned before, we got a bit distracted this morning. League heads, Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Kurt Catewell for the Warriors. 2 packets left for box number 4. Bang, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Is that Roosters? No. Gladiators, Lindsay Collins for the Roosters, number 49. Luminous Ethan Strange for the Raiders, and that's the end of box number 4. Box number 5. Game Breakers, Kale Iro for the Sharks. Luminous Saratoga Tuki for Tigers. League heads, Renato Militalo for the Sharks. Luminous Connolly Lumi Lou for Dolphins. Die cuts, Ethan Sanders for Raiders. Luminous Samuel Stone Street for Sharks. Game Breakers, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Luminous Tanila Paseka for Manly. Bang, Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Luminous Sam Walker for the Roosters. League heads, Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous John Bateman for the Cowboys. Mercury, Brian Kelly for the Titans, number 126. Jamin Salmon, Luminous for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous Cameron Munster for Storm. League heads, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Luminous Brian Kelly for Titans. Bang, Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins. Luminous, Bailey Simonson for the Eels. League Heads, Jacob Little for the Dragons. Luminous, Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Die cuts, Falago for Storm. Luciano Leilua for the Dragons in the Luminous. Game Breakers, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Luminous, Katoni Staggs for Broncos. Red Triumph, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Asaya Papali'i for Panthers. League Heads, Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Luminous, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Bang, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous, Alex Seyfarth for Tigers. League Heads, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous, Keon Colomatini for the Rabbitohs. State of Origin Predictor. Making a mess of what's there, just so I could fit that in. What a pain. Luminous, Ali Latua for the Warriors. I actually didn't notice who that was, to be fair. Game Breakers, Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Gladiators, Joash for the Eels, number 344. Jermaine McEwen, Luminous for the Knights. League Heads, Jason Saab for Manly. Luminous, Teddy for the Roosters. Bang, Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous, Max Plath for the Dolphins. Game Breakers, Luca Moretti for the Eels. Luminous, Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Die cut, Dane Gagai for the Knights. Luminous, Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. League Heads, Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. Luminous, Jackson Perdue for the Cowboys. Game Breakers Alex Twal for the Tigers. Luminous Blaze Talagi for Panthers. League Heads Alafiana Khan Piera for Titans. Luminous Tom Starling for the Raiders. Game Breakers Trent LaRoe for Storm. Luminous Tamika Upton for the Broncos. Bang Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous Jesse Ramian for Sharks. League Heads Will Penasini for the Eels. Luminous Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Triumph Murray Talagi for the Cowboys. Luminous Ben Trbojevic for Manly. Game Breakers Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. Luminous Sanua Taruva for Tigers. Yo, what's happening, brother? League Heads Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Yeah, we're not doing too bad. We hit a Jerome Hughes #1. I'd definitely say that's up there in the Mercury. Will Penasini for the Eels. Oh. Tom Gilbert, die cuts for Dolphins. Luminous Jonah Pezzett for Storm. 2 packets left for box number 5. Bang Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. And last one for the box. League Heads Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Luminous Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Hey, at least it's still a nice card. Being a Panthers collector, it's a bit hard, but can always put it up for trade or sale and try and get something that you want. Campbell Graham, bang for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Game Breakers Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Die cuts Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Dylan Brown for the Knights. League Heads, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Ben Hunt for Broncos. Bang Casey McLean for Panthers. Luminous Asaya Iongi for the Eels. League Heads, Nico Hines for Sharks. Luminous Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers, Jalen DeGroot for Titans. Luminous Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Mercury Lindsay Smith for Panthers, number 312. Luminous Jamie Chapman for the Titans. League Heads, Big Tino for the Titans. Luminous Jerome Luai for the Tigers. Bang AJ Brimson for the Titans. Luminous Hudson Young for Raiders. Game Breakers, Patricia for the Warriors. Luminous Leka Halasima for the Warriors. League Heads, Falago for Storm. Luminous Hammer for the Dolphins. Die Cuts, Aaron Clark for the Warriors. Luminous Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. League Heads, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Nico Hines for the Sharks. Game Breakers, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Luminous Lehe Hopawate for Manly. Dali M Predictor. Luminous Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. League Heads, Wade Egan for the Warriors. Luminous Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Red Triumph for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Luminous Tolator Koala for Manly. League heads, Ruben Garratt for Manly. Luminous Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Game breakers, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Payne Haas for the Broncos. League heads, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Bang Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous Phoenix Crossland for Knights. League heads, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Gladiators, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys, number 116. Luminous Jaden Campbell for Titans. Bang Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Ethan Bullymore for Manly. League heads, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jesse Calhoun for the Sharks. Die cuts, Regan Campbell Gillard for Titans. Kurt Capewell, Luminous for the Warriors. Game breakers, Gahamat Shabarsky for the Broncos. Luminous Kimball Graham for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers, Maynard Perrin for the Dragons. Luminous Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. Red Triumph, Renato Militalo for the Sharks. Luminous Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. League heads, Spencer Linu for the Roosters. Dream Buller Luminous for Tigers. Bang, Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Xavier Coates, Luminous for Storm. Alright, another box done and dusted. Not quite finished box number 6. A few packs to go. Game Breakers, Asaya Iongi for the Eels, Luminous Herbie Farnworth for the Dolphins. Die Cuts, Kyle Flanagan for Dragons, Luminous Dylan Egan for the Dragons, and last pack for the box. League Heads, Samula Fainu for Tigers, and Luminous Abbey Church for Eels. That means we are halfway through the case. Box number 7. Just a reminder, hobby box combos restocked, as well as only 2 teams available in break 446. I'm gonna quickly mute the video because I don't like the idea of blowing my nose on camera. There we go, we're back, sorry. Die cut Ruben Garratt for Manly, Luminous Jordan Ricky for the Broncos, Red Triumphs Morgan Smithies for the Raiders, Luminous Jessica Surgis for the Roosters. Game Breakers Jack Bostock for the Dolphins, Luminous Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Bang Falago for Storm, Luminous Harry Grant for Storm. League Heads Kalen Ponga for Knights, Luminous Renato Molitalo for Sharks. Game Breakers Hudson Young for the Raiders, Luminous Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. League heads Hamoli Olika-Atu for Manly. Luminous Zach Labour for the Cowboys. Game breakers Tegan Dimmick for the Bulldogs. Luminous Loco Pacifici Tonga for the Dragons. Gladiators Bo Fermor for the Titans, 368. Luke Brooks Luminous for Manly. League heads Cohen Hess for Manly. Cowboys Isaiah Katoa Luminous for Dolphins. Oh. Game breakers John Bateman for the Cowboys. Luminous Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Die cut Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Luminous Georgia Hale for the Titans. League heads Brian Kelly for the Titans. Luminous Josh Kerr for the Dragons. Bang Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous Ruben Garratt for Manly. Game breakers Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Mich Kenny for Panthers. League heads Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous Adam Fanua Blake for the Sharks. Mercury Lycan King Togia for the Dragons, number 27. Luminous Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Die cuts Jalen DeGroot for Titans. Luminous Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. League heads Connolly Loomy Lou for the Dolphins. Luminous Jalen DeGroot for Titans. Game breakers Chance Nicole Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous Corey Horsburgh for Raiders. League heads Liam Martin for Panthers. Luminous Cassie Hiku for the Eels. Bang Zach Labour for Cowboys. Luminous Marky Mark for Roosters. League Heads Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Luminous Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Die cut Emery Gula for the Dragons. Luminous Wade Egan for the Warriors. Game Breakers Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous Latu Finu for the Tigers. Bang Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Ezra Mann for the Broncos. League Heads Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Luminous Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Die cut Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. League Heads Max King for the Bulldogs. Luminous Keanu Kinney for Titans. Bang Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Game Breakers Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous Angelina for the Bulldogs. League Heads Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Luminous Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Red Triumph Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous Zach Lomax for the Eels. League Heads Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers Julia Robinson for the Broncos. Luminous Billy Walters for the Broncos. Bang Jacob Carraz for Bulldogs. Luminous Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. And that's box number 7 done and dusted. Alright, Box number 8. I'm not sure how long they've been there, but I've just got an update. The kids are about to be seen by the doctor. Bang Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Falago for Storm. League heads, Moses Leota for Panthers. Luminous Brendan Smith for the Rabbitohs. Red Triumphs for the Titans. Luminous Tamale for the Raiders. Game Breakers, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Emma Veron for the Sharks. League heads, Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous Samula Fainu for Tigers. Game Breakers, Abby Church for the Eels. Luminous Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Bang Gehamat Shabarsky for Broncos. Luminous Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers, Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Luminous Philip Semi for the Titans. League heads, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Luminous Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Die cut, Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Dane Gagai for the Knights. League head, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Connor Watson for the Roosters. Game Breakers, Ali Latua for the Warriors. Luminous Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Bang Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. Luminous Dylan Walker for the Eels. League heads, Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Luminous Zahara Tamara for the Raiders. Dally M Predictor Wildcard. Luminous Brian Top for Panthers. League Heads Asaya Katoa for the Dolphins. Luminous Luke Law Lily for the Tigers. Red Triumph Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Game Breakers Big Tino for Titans. Luminous Hugo Savala for Roosters. Mercury Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs, number 414. Luminous Greg Marsu for the Knights. Game Breakers Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Luminous Kulikefu for the Dolphins. League Heads Sam Walker for the Roosters. Daniel Tupou Luminous for the Roosters. Bang Nico Hines for the Sharks. Luminous Appy Nichols for the Warriors. Game Breakers Tamale for the Raiders. Luminous Carl Wharton for the Cowboys. League Heads Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous Whanua Pole for the Tigers. Die cut Wade Egan for the Warriors. Luminous Cameron McInnes for Sharks. Bang Roger Tuivasa Sheck for the Warriors. Luminous Trent Leroux for Storm. League Heads Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Luminous Jamal Fogarty for Manly. Game Breakers Dane Gagai for the Knights. Luminous AJ Brimson for the Titans. Gladiators Mich Kenny for the Panthers, number 558. Luminous Murata Nakor for the Warriors. League heads, Jerome Luai for the Tigers. Luminous Moses Leotta for Panthers. Die cuts, Mich Kenny for the Panthers. Luminous Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Bang Dream Buller for the Tigers. Luminous Mackenzie Wheel for Cowboys. League heads, Harry Grant for Storm. Luminous Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Game breakers, Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous Dylan Lucas for Knights. 2 packets left for the box. Die cuts, Samula Fainu for the Tigers. Luminous Lockie Galvin for the Bulldogs. League heads, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. And that's another box done and dusted. Box number 9. Gladiators, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos, number 383. Luminous, Kale Arrow for the Sharks. League heads, KO Weeks for the Raiders. Luminous Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. Game breakers, Kira Dibb for the Cowboys. Luminous Jason Saab for Manly. League heads, Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Game breakers, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Gehamat Shabarski for Broncos. Die cuts, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Game breakers, Kalen Ponga for Knights. Luminous Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. League heads, Keanu Kinney for the Titans. Luminous Keezy Apps for Tigers. Bang Terrell May for the Tigers. Luminous Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. League heads, Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Luminous Brian Nakora for the Sharks. Die cuts, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Kalen Ponga, Luminous for Knights. Bang Brian Kelly for the Titans. Luminous Lachlan King Toya for Dragons. Game Breakers, Jareem Buller for Tigers. Isaac Tago, Luminous for Panthers. League heads, Brian To'o for Panthers. Luminous Alafiana Kampi Era for Titans. Game Breakers, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous Addo Carr for the Eels. Die cuts, Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. Luminous Robert Toya for the Roosters. League heads, Jackson Purdue for Cowboys. Luminous Samaima Torfa for Raiders. Game Breakers, White for the Roosters. Luminous Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Bang Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. League heads, James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous Reed Marnie for the Cowboys. Triumph Milwaukee Fotowaka for the Titans. Luminous Cookie for the Dragons. League heads, Shabarsky for the Broncos. Luminous Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Game Breakers, Harry Grant for Storm. Luminous Dominic Young for the Knights. Die cut, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Hamoli Olika R2 for Manly. League heads, Chance Nicole Cockstad for the Warriors. Luminous Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Bang Renato Mulatalo for the Sharks. Luminous Mawaki Fotowaka for Titans. Game Breakers Jamie Chapman for the Titans. Luminous Ali Brigginshaw for Broncos. League Heads Terrell May for Tigers. Luminous Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Bang Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous Jerome Hughes for Storm. Die cut Ben Hunt for Broncos. Luminous Casey McLean for Panthers. League Heads Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Chance Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Game Breakers Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous Ethan Sanders for the Raiders. Bang Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous William Kennedy for the Sharks. League Heads Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Luminous Satili Tupanua for Bulldogs. 2 packets left in the box. Mercury Dean Mariner for the Broncos, number 406. Luminous Sean Russell for the Eels. Triumph for the Warriors. Luminous Azali Hopkins for the Dragons. Box number 10. Bang Ezra Mann for Broncos. Luminous Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. League Heads Tom Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. Game Breakers Daryl May for the Tigers. Luminous Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. League Heads Mich Kenny for the Panthers. Luminous Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Max Plath for the Dolphins. Luminous Episode Coruscant for the Tigers. Die Cuts Thomas Jenkins for Panthers. Luminous Liam Martin for Panthers. League Heads Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Scott Drinkwater for Cowboys. Mercury Felice Kafusi for Dolphins, number 406. I wonder who the highlights is for this round. Luminous Luca Moretti for Eels. Game Breakers Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. League Heads Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. Bang Kale Iro for the Sharks. Luminous Val Holmes for the Dragons. League Heads Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Big Tino for Titans. Die Cut Latu Vainu for the Tigers. Kale Iro for the Sharks. Game Breakers Braden Trindle for Sharks. Luminous Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. Gladiators Leka Halasima for the Warriors. 111, all the ones. Luminous Jason Saab for Manly. League Heads Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Die cut, Ruben Cotter for Cowboys. Luminous, Gahamat Shabarsky for Broncos. Game Breakers, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous, Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Bang, Greg Marzu for the Knights. Luminous, Jeremiah Nanai for Cowboys. League Heads, Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Luminous, Keezy Apps for the Tigers. Zach Lomax in the die cuts for Eels. Luminous, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. League Heads, Mr. Payne Huss for Broncos. Luminous, Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. Game Breakers, Sophie Hollyman for the Raiders. Callum Ponga, Luminous for the Knights. Bang, Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous, Lachlan King Togia for the Dragons. Red Triumph for Manly. Luminous, Isaac Tago for Panthers. League Heads, James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Luminous, Alafiana Kampi-Era for Titans. Bang, Jack Hetherington for the Rabbitohs. Adokar, Luminous for Panthers. Game Breakers, Billy Walters for the Broncos. Luminous, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Tyron Wishart in the base. We've got 8 more packets to go in box number 10. Die cuts, Nicholas Hines for the Sharks. Luminous, Tamama Torfa for the Raiders. League Heads, Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Luminous, Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Triumph, Kuli Kefu for Dolphins. Luminous Jai Grey for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers, Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous Reed Marnie for the Cowboys. League Heads, Adam Fanua Blake for the Sharks. Luminous Damien Cook for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Tyron Wishart for the Storm. Luminous Adam Dewey for the Tigers. League Heads, Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Dominic Young in the Luminous for Knights. Bang Roger Tuvasa-Shek for the Warriors. And Luminous for Molly Olaka-Atu. Alright, before we start box number 11, I'm just going to go grab a quick juice. I need a drink. Just made a mess with me. Alright, we're back. Open the popper. Alright, let's go. Alright, box number 11. Got 2 boxes left in the case. Well, this is one of them, and we've got our 2 hobby boxes. Let's get it done. You can't tell, I'm struggling. Head hurts. Game breakers, Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Luminous, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Die cuts, Ezra Mam for Broncos. Luminous, Zahara Temera for the Raiders. League heads, Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous, Brian To'o for Panthers. Game breakers, Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Luke Lolelli for Tigers. We're due last two boxes. We normally, pretty sure we average about 8 out of a retail. That's just off the top of my head. We've done a few, I should know. Hey, there we are. Rookie of the Year, Murray Talagi, Luminous for the Cowboys. League heads, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Bang, Philip Sammy for the Titans. Luminous, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Game breakers, Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Luminous, Tui Kamikamika for Storm. League head, Sam Verrills for the Titans. Luminous, Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Gladiators, Jermaine McEwen for the Knights, number 375. Luminous, Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. League heads, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous, Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Game breakers, Dylan Egan for the Dragons. Luminous, White for the Roosters. Bang, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous, Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. League heads, Stefano Utikamanu for Storm. Luminous, Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Mercury, Tamir Martin for the Warriors, number 67. It's our second 67 in this break that I can remember. Luminous Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Game Breakers, Seymour Torfa for the Raiders. Luminous Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Die Cuts Sione Katoa for the Sharks. Luminous Tommy Turbo for Manly. Bang Will Penasini for the Eels. Luminous Connor Watson for the Roosters. Die Cuts Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Bang Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. Luminous Mackenzie Wheel for the Cowboys. League Head Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Luminous Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Game Breakers Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Luminous Dylan Lucas for the Knights. League Heads John Bateman for the Cowboys. Luminous Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Red Triumphs Brian To'o for Panthers. Luminous Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Bang Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous Hugo Savala for Roosters. League Heads Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Luminous Farlago for Storm. Game Breakers Appy Nichols for the Warriors. Luminous Brendan Smith for the Rabbitohs. Die Cut Big Tino for the Titans. Luminous Tamale for the Raiders. League Heads Patrick Carrigan for Broncos. Luminous Emma Veron for the Sharks. Game Breakers Jerome Luai for Tigers. Luminous Samula Finu for Tigers. Bang, Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Red Triumph Christian Tui Paluto for Dragons. Luminous Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. 4 packets left for the box. League Heads Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Luminous Philip Semi for the Titans. Game Breakers Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Patrick Carrigan, Luminous for the Broncos. League Heads Dream Buller for the Tigers. Luminous Dane Gagai for the Knights. Last packet for the box. League Heads Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Alright, well that was box number 11, guys. We have one more box left in the case. Let's get it done. Don't forget, we still have the 2 hobby boxes to finish off the break once this one is done. So still a bit to go. Another half hour. Game Breakers Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. League Heads Lehe Hopawate for Manly. Luminous Blake Brayley for Sharks. Bang, Val Holmes for Dragons. Luminous Tui Kamika for Storm. Game Breakers Zach Labour for Cowboys. Luminous Jake Dvojevic for Manly. League Heads Greg Marzu for Knights. Luminous Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. League Heads Joash for Eels. Luminous Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Die cut Luca Moretti for the Eels. Luminous White for the Roosters. Game Breakers Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Cheers, bud. Appreciate it. Jack Bostock, luminous for the Dolphins, especially at the moment. Bang, Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous, Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Oh, itchy. League heads, Keon for the Rabbitohs. Fletcher Sharp, luminous for the Knights. Game breakers, Anessa Biddle for the Sharks. Luminous, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Excuse me. Red Triumphs, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Die cuts, Kale Arrow for Sharks. Luminous, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. League heads, Marky Mark for Roosters. Luminous, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Game breakers, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Luminous, Roger Tuivasa Shek for the Warriors. I need to blow that nose. Give me a moment. Alright, there we go. Bit clearer for a moment there. Let's go. Get it done. Bang, Asai Iongi for the Eels. Luminous. Oh, look at the wrinkles in that one. Try and give that a play that later, I think. Tiana Penatani Grey, luminous for the Sharks. Just remember that plastic, a clear plastic on the outside is just a protective cover. It is meant to be peeled off. It is up to you whether you do so or not. Tom Starling, Gladiators for the Raiders, 156. Luminous, Terrell May for the Tigers. Red Triumph, Clinton Gutterson for Dragons. Luminous, Reece Walsh for the Broncos. League heads, Apisai Coruscant for Tigers. Luminous, Jack Williams for the Eels. Die cuts Xavier Coates for Storm. Luminous Tui Kami Stefano Utikamanu for Storm again. Game Breakers Tui Kami Kamika for Storm. That was a card early. KO Weeks Luminous for the Raiders. Bang Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous Bo Fermor for the Titans. League Heads Tom Starling for Raiders. Luminous Jason Tormalolo for Cowboys. Die cuts Clayton for Lalo for Manly. Luminous Alex 12 for Tigers. League Heads William Kennedy for Sharks. Luminous Tyron Wishart for Storm. Bang Ruben Garratt for Manly. Luminous Kira Dib for the Cowboys. Game Breakers Tolator Koala for Manly. Luminous Braden Trindle for the Sharks. League Heads Mawaki Fodawaika for Titans. Luminous Sam Verrills for Titans. Mercury Morgan Smithies for the Raiders, number 196. Luminous Bradman Best for the Knights. League Heads Ben Hunt for the Broncos. Junior Paulo Luminous for the Eels. This is our 6th last packet for the box. Game Breakers Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. League Heads Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Luminous Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Die cuts Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous Lachlan Elias for Dragons. League Heads Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Luminous Billy Smith for the Roosters. Tamir Martin Bang for the Warriors. Luminous Max King for the Bulldogs. And lucky last for the case. Game Breakers Isaac Tago for Panthers, and Luminous Lachlan Albert Jones for the Warriors. Alright, let's get these ones moved out of the way and get stuck into the important ones. Our 2 hobby boxes left to go. Luminous Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs, number 467. Gold die cut Isaac Tago, number 133. Luminous Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs, number 358. Gold Gladiators Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs, number 29. Luminous Episode Carousel for Tigers, number 354. Gold die cut Ray Stone for the Dolphins, 127. So how was that, Brendan? Not a bad start to the hobby boxes to kick you off. Liam Martin, Luminous for Panthers, 443. Liam Martin, etched for Panthers, number 35. Luminous Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys, number 2. Sorry if anyone heard that. Number 258 for the Cowboys. We also have a Premiership Predictor. Luminous Luca Moretti for the Eels, 581. Gold die cut Nafor White for the Roosters, number 33. Luminous James Fisher Harris, number 78. Mercury Sterling Tamale for the Raiders, number 29. Luminous Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. Gold die cuts Aaron Clark for the Warriors, 197. Luminous Val Holmes for the Dragons, number 302. Luminous Leka Seymour for the Warriors, number 227. Luminous for the Hammer Dolphins, number 689. Etched Jerome Luai for the Tigers, number 15. Luminous Cohen Hess for the Cowboys, number 31. Luminous Nico Hines for the Sharks, 171. Gold die cut Oregon Kafusi for the Sharks, 186. Luminous Lehe Hopewate for Manly, 344. Gold Gladiators Greg Marshew for the Knights, number 25. 4 packets left for our first hobby box. Luminous Morgan Smithies for the Raiders, number 32. Gold die cuts Xavier Savage for the Raiders, number 51. Luminous Dean Mariner for the Broncos, number 548. Playmakers Blake Brayley for the Sharks, number 60. Luminous Isabel Kelly for the Roosters, number 286. Etched Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys, number 169. Luminous Nelson Asofa Solomona for Storm, number 330. Last box of the break, our second hobby box. Luminous Tommy Turbo, number 419 for Manly. Gold die cuts Braden Trindle for the Sharks, number 239. Luminous Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs, number 228. Mercury Sterling Bo Fermor for the Titans, number 18. Luminous Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs, number 128. Gold die cuts Tamir Martin, number 92. Luminous Roger Tuvasa Shek for the Warriors, number 74. Luminous Tiana Penatani Gray for the Sharks, number 488. Etched Cameron Munster for the Storm, 172. Daryl May, Luminous for the Tigers, 544. And we have a black triumph. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels, number 74. Gold die cut Zach Labour for the Cowboys, number 230. That could have been the Cleary highlights just arriving. We're expecting them on Friday. Once again, if you go and check the highlights category, you'll see the Cleary is listed as coming soon. You can add that to your wish list. Stefano Utikamanu for Storm, number 65. Playmakers Connor Watson for the Roosters, number 24. I don't know, I feel in the end that was pretty even across most of the teams. We'll find out number 1 when we go through these, but number 2 when we do the pictures. KO Weeks, number 37 for the Raiders. Luminous Beau Fermor for Titans, number 165. Tony Staggs Gold, number 1. How about that to finish off the break? It's our second number 1 for the break. Luminous Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys, number 310. Etched Milwaukee Photo Ika, number 125. Alex Twal, Luminous to the Tigers, 673. Tyron Wisher for the Storm, number 229. Gold die cuts Dylan Walker for the Eels, number 140. Kira Dibb, Luminous for the Cowboys, 655. Gold Gladiators, Tommy Turbo, number 104 for Manly. Got 4 left. Luminous Braden Trindle for the Sharks, number 352. Gold die cuts Dylan Edwards for Panthers, 194. Sam Verrills, Luminous for Titans, number 709. Bradman Best, Luminous for the Knights, number 468. Etched Isaac Tago for Panthers, 153. Last packet for the break. Luminous Junior Paulo for the Eels, 355. Alright, now, most importantly, let's get through these hits. First up, Dally M Predictor, number 51. Now, I had to laugh when he asked who was the predictor for, even though we hadn't showed, but it was Mr. Marnie for the Cowboys. Alright, instant win. Mr. Kyle Hunt with the Bulldogs. Alright, Gold Triumph. And this one, when I pulled this, it made me feel a lot better at the time. Harry Grant for the Storm, number 76. I'm not sure how well we can get that up there. And my headphones have just called it quits on me. Who we got? Oh, okay. Pretty sure Bulldogs as well. Kurt Mann. State of Origin Predictor, number 69. Kurt Mann, Bulldogs. Pretty sure. I'm going to put it there just to be sure at the end. Dally M Predictor, number 57. Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Oh, well, I'm glad I can be a part of getting your first instant win, Kyle. Hopefully, it redeems something decent for you. Dally M Predictor, number 50 for the Bulldogs. Again, Bulldogs on fire. Alright, Dally M, Rookie of the Year. I thought this was actually Rabbitohs, to be honest, but it is the mighty Eels, 157. Dad reckons Titans rookie card is the one to have. I haven't spoken to him about it recently, so I'm not sure if he's changed his mind. Alright. Premiership Predictor out of the hobby box, our first hobby box for the Dragons, number 22. Alright, lucky last. And it's funny that this is the last one, because if you've been watching, you'll also know that this is basically my favourite card in the release. Out of all the cards, this has got to be it. There's only one that tops it, and that is the signature version. We have Reece Walsh in the Black Triumph, number 26. Alright, well, that is it, guys. That is all. Hope you all had a ball. I'm just glad it's over and I can sign off. Until the next one, guys, I will see you all then.